Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to be painting a flower for you, a cone flower, and I'm going to be doing it in the transparent watercolor technique that I had done yesterday with the eucalyptus leaves, but today decided to do a flower. I'm using my Arches watercolor paper, 140 pound. It is the hot press. I find that the hot press works a lot better than the cold press if you want your transparent watercolors just to look a little bit smoother and softer. You could definitely do it on the cold press as well. It's just got a little bit more texture to it, but it's just as beautiful. All right, I'm also using my my black velvet, my silver black velvet brushes. I have a size 10, 8, and a 6 here. And I've got my Winsor and Newton watercolors, and I'm gonna be making a wash of mauve. I also have a wash that I had made yesterday of my sap green and my hooker's green. So I'm gonna go ahead and re-wet that and work that for the leaves and the stems. But for the petals of the flower, I decided to use mauve. So I showed this in yesterday's video. I do have all my colors on my normal palettes here. But for the transparent watercolors, you want to make a really nice wash. So if you want to go ahead and get a good amount, and I'm just going to spray some water on here. And I've got mauve right in the middle of my palette right there. But you want to get a good amount of paint right in this little well here. I could have gone ahead and cleaned this and used that, but I chose not to clean my well. I've got all these pretty colors in here that I'm going to go ahead and use later for another painting. So I just have these little generic dishes, and I bought these at a thrift store. And they came in 6. So I've got 6 of these, and I use them for all different colors. All right, so go ahead and get your color, and you can use whatever color you want. I'm just choosing this mauve color. I've never used mauve before a couple days ago, and it's a beautiful color. I never bought it before. I decided to buy it, and now I'm in love with the color. All right, so let's go ahead and get a nice wash, and you want this to be really transparent. All right, so get a good amount of water on there. All right, I'll move my green out of the way right now. And I am going to be using my size 10, and I already pre-drawed my my cone flowers. So I have one that's kind of looking at you and one that's kind of looking up. So I'm not sure you could see this. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and lighten up my lines a little bit with my kneaded eraser. Just a little bit. I don't want all that pencil work to show through. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put down my first layer. And you don't want to go and do every single petal. You want to do the petals that don't touch at this point. You're going to leave the petals that do touch for the second part. So go ahead and paint in all the little petals that are not touching. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my wash and I'm going to put a little bit on the edge here, just like this. I'm just dropping it in. You also want to have, along with your well of your wash here, you also want the color. So you want the straight color, because this part here, you want it to be as pigmented as possible. And I am just putting it on the edge here. And this is going to crispen up your edge to give it that translucent look. Now, every time you lift up your brush like that, it makes a little bloom. I like those blooms, and sometimes I do them on purpose. If you don't like the blooms, just try to have one continuous stroke. And then I cleaned off my brush, I dried it off, and I'm just going in and I'm smoothing it out a little bit. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and do this one, and this one already dried, so I'm just going to give it another wash. And then I'm going to go ahead again and put in a little bit of my wash just on the edges. Okay. And then I'm going to take my color and I'm just going to put it right on the edge here. I'm going to clean my brush, and you can blend it in if you want. And now at this point, if you see a lot of puddling happening, you can take your clean brush and you can lift up some of that water, just so it's nice and translucent and very light, because you're going to be putting another layer of petals right on top of this. Okay. So that's 2 petals. And you can go ahead and, it's easier for me just to kind of turn my sheet around and go ahead and make my next petal. And I'm just putting that wash again on the edge here, just so it kind of darkens up the edge a little bit. Dry off your brush, pick up your color, and just do like a nice, crisp, very thin line. You want it to be really, really crisp. So you're kind of going on the wet part and the dry part of the water, right on the edge. Okay, and then you can help that along a little bit if you want to. If you feel like it didn't bleed as much as you wanted it to, go ahead and help it along. All right, that one I'm not even sure, well, maybe I'll pick up a little bit, but I actually like the way that this roughness looks there on the sides. All right, and then just keep going around your page, around your flower. All right, now before you go on to your next layer, which is going to be the overlapping layer, you always want to make sure that your paper is nice and dry. So I'm going to go ahead and blow dry this really quick with my heat gun, and then we'll do the second layer. All right, so you want to make sure that your page is nice and dry. If it still feels really, really cold, that means that it's still a little damp, but it feels just like the rest of the paper that's not painted. So I think we're good. All right, and I'm going to start going over with my overlapping petal. So I'm overlapping these 2 petals. Try not to go and blend too much on your crispness here of the first petals, because you will lift that back up and lose it a little bit. And you don't want to do that. All right, dry off your brush. And then do the crispness on this one. And I'm just using the tip. You can help it along if you want a little bit. There, beautiful. All right, we're gonna let this dry. And where these 2 overlap, you want it to be a little bit darker. And right now I had some extra little paint down here, so I just am pushing it along. And then lift up. And you can lift up a little bit in there as well. Now we can go ahead and exaggerate these 2 little areas later. For right now, I'm just gonna let it do its thing and dry just naturally like that. And then we can always go in and put more later if we want to. Go ahead and make your next one. Dry off your brush, pick up your paint. Now, if you wanted to leave some of the edges that don't have this crispness, you can definitely do that. Just don't go around your whole petal. And it'll give you just a little bit of a softer look as well. All right, I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna pick up just a little bit of my water here in the middle because I felt like there was a little too much. All right, I'm going to keep going around. Once you get the hang of this process, of this technique, it's actually really, really fun. And it's such a beautiful look too. But it is going to take a while to get used to. It's not like you're just going to be great at it right away. This technique here is a lot of practice. Okay. Again, I'm going to just pick up a little bit of my paint right in the middle here. A little bit too much water. There. All right. All right, so it is nice and dry. I'm going to pick up, I've got a little bit of my cad yellow mix that I had used the other day, so I'm just going to re-wet that. I think I also have a little bit of my yellow ochre in here as well. I'm just going to go ahead and put some yellow right in there. And since this is supposed to be a translucent painting, I'm going over some of my purple here. All right, and I'm going to let that dry. And I'm going to start going over some of the areas. So each petal, wherever it overlapped, is a little bit darker. So like this is one layer and this is one layer, but where they overlapped is 2 layers. Now, just to exaggerate it a little bit, if you want to go over it, you can. So I'm just going over it with my nice little mix that I did here. And you can go over it as many times as you want. A little of my yellow just bled in there, which is totally fine. That might end up looking really pretty, actually. So go ahead and dry your middle part if you don't want it to bleed. But I'm actually kind of excited to see how that dries with the yellow in there. So let's go on to this flower. So these petals are going to be overlapping these petals. So just make sure your painting is really nice and dry so far. You can help it along a little bit if you want to. Clean off your brush. Smooth it out. All right. Then go on to the next petal, but not the one that's touching it, just the one that's next, but not too close. And we'll do the ones in between now. Take some of that water off if there's too much. Smooth it out. Let's go on to this one. I think there's one right in here. Okay. Go ahead and blend it out. Let that dry. Go to the next one. All right, so let's get our yellow going again here. And you can overlap the tips here if you want to, because it's supposed to be a transparent flower. So you can overlap a little bit here. And I'm going to soak up some of that water. Dab it off on my paper towel. And then I'm going to go over this one a little bit more. Just a little bit darker, maybe towards the edge here. There. All right, I'm going to let that one dry. But in the meantime, I'm going to go and crispen up some of my edges here. So I see that it needs a little bit darker here, because this is a third layer right here, because it's overlapping this petal, and this petal. So this is a third layer. So you want that to be a little bit darker. And I think I need a little bit more in here. All right, so I am gonna move down to my number 6, and I'm going to take some of my mauve. There is a fuzz in my paint. There. And I'm gonna crispen up some of my lines here, just a little bit. Very pretty. All right, let's go ahead and let that, actually I want to add a little bit more orange to my coneflower here. And it's got all the little texture up in the cone here. That's where all the seeds are. So it's very textured in here. All right, and I think I'm gonna add a little bit of my Quin Gold as well. Yeah, just deepen it up a little bit. Okay. And I think I'm going to add that same color over here. Really pretty. All right, let's go ahead and let that dry, and we're going to start adding our greenery. All right, I'm moving over to my size 8, and I'm just going to re-wet my, I believe this is my Hooker's green, and I think I have a little sap green in here, but whatever green you have is good. Just get it all nice and saturated again. All right, you want to make sure that your petals are dry for this part. And yes, they are. All right. You move this aside, push this up. All right, so since they're translucent, see-through petals, you're gonna see the stem going right through. So pick a point where you want your stem, and I think I want my stem going right through here. And let me pick up a little more paint. Here we go. There. That way you can see right through the petal. All right, and this one as well. And this one I'll have coming down this way, I think. Okay. Let's go ahead and get that a little bit more green in there. You can also thicken up if you don't feel like your stem is thick enough to hold that big flower. Thicken up your stem a little bit. And then just drag it down. All right, coneflowers have these big, beautiful leaves. So I'm gonna do a little stem coming out, and they're very pointy leaves. Fill it in. Get a little bit more green on the, kind of the same way we just did the petals, a little bit more green on the outside here. And then I've got to go and get my actual green to make my outline. Look how pretty that is. I will just add a little more green to here. Super pretty. All right, you can go ahead and you can start blending it out a little bit. Soften it up if you want, or you can leave it rough. Go ahead and pick up some of that paint from the middle part so it looks nice and translucent, light and airy. All right, let's go ahead and put another leaf maybe coming this way. Like that. Go ahead and fill it all in. Put on a little bit more green on the outside. It just kind of deepens up and makes a little bit extra layer to the edge of your petal or leaf or whatever. And then go ahead and grab your color. All right, nice and dry. And I think I'll do one coming out this way. Let's let it overlap. I'm going to make it a little bit longer so it overlaps a little bit here. All right. And I'm going to make another leaf this way. So I really want these two overlap right here. So let's do one coming up like this. There. And oops. So wherever they're overlapping, I'm going to just deepen up those areas like we did the petals. Like that. Good. And then I'm going to put in all the little veining. So I'm going to move over to my 6 again. And I'm still making a wash, but not as watery. And I'm going to start adding in all the little veins. I'm just using the tip of my brush. Just gives these paintings a little extra detail. sure that's dry or it's gonna bleed on me. I think it's dry. Let me try that really quick. Let's try that again. And you can always deepen up the end here of where the veining is connected to the stem. It might be just a little bit darker there, just to give it a little bit more value. And then this is still wet, otherwise I would make that a little bit darker too, but I'll do that in a minute. All right, then go ahead and do this one. Now it gets a little confusing because they're overlapping here, but like I said before, just kind of follow along with that one leaf or one petal where it gets confusing. Let's see. My line is right here. Yeah, see, even I confused myself a little bit here. All right, I want to put a little bit more detail in these cones here. So I'm going to take I think this is my sepia. Flick it up. I'm still using my size 6, just the point, undiluted. It's just my normal wet paint. And I'm just flicking in some little points. If you know coneflowers, you know that coneflowers have these little spikes on them, right where the seeds are under there. So I'm flicking to the right on the right side, I'm flicking to the left on the left side. And then I'm just kind of making more dots in the middle because they're looking right at you. So you don't really see the line, you just see the dot. And I'm not gonna do too much up on top. Maybe just a few here and there. Okay. See, adding these little details makes such a difference. It just pulls a painting in. Look at that. All right, let's do it to the other one. Now this one, I'm gonna be flicking out because I'm looking straight on. So I'm just gonna go around my whole little circle here. I'll just do a couple little layers of that. Because the middle, I'm just gonna do a few in the middle. There, just like that. And you know what? I think I might add just a little bit of black. Just a little bit to deepen up some of these areas down here. And maybe just a little black around here too. That is so pretty. All right, well, I can keep working on this and I might actually put in a little bit more detail in my petals, but I just wanted to kind of show you, since I did the eucalyptus yesterday, I just wanted to show you a flower today. So it could be done really doing any kind of flower or really any object. You just have to have a light touch and a lot of water. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more videos like this one, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.